Number 5 on this list is Dalaketnon. These are tricky demons, and if they approach you, then you need to be very wary. Wikipedia says Dalaketnons are a race of elf-like creatures in Philippine mythology. In Visayans, they were believed to be handsome and beautiful creatures that resemble nobles and monarchs of the pre-Hispanic Philippines. They dwell on Dalakit trees, hence the name Dalaketnon, which literally means from the Dalakit or Dakit tree. This mythological race exhibits sexual dimorphism, the men having light-colored skin and very dark hair, and women having bronze-brown skin and brown hair. Stories say that they have leaf-shaped pointy ears, depicted in modern times as gothic, like tall, handsome males and beautiful females. They dress in fashionable manner, live in the haunted house-like mansions, and try to fit in with mortal people. Some believe that the only way to Dalakit, their dwelling place, is by entering the Dalakit trees. These creatures abduct people and take them back to this world. They hold a feast for their victims and force them to eat the black rice that then puts them under their spell, making them their slaves. So that sounds like the actual worst. You get taken to their mystical land and then forced to eat this rice, which, I mean, I can only imagine is gonna be something really gross, because then it makes you their slave. My question is, what the hell does becoming their slave even entail? Like, what is this world that I now live in, and what is it that I have to do here? I guess I'm in some evil elf-like hell or something, but that doesn't really sound like a great time. The biggest problem with this is that you need to be super vigilant, or else it's very likely that they could get you. If you don't notice those pointy ears, then that could be game over, guys. Number 4 on this list is the Amalanhig. The Amalanhig are sort of like the Philippines version of a zombie. Myths and folklore says, in the Philippine mythology, the Amalanhig or Maranhig are flightless aswang that came back to life after death. They rise from their grave after failing to pass their power to a relative. Upon rising from the grave, these Amalanhig lurk in the woods and live as bloodsuckers. At night, they go to nearby villages to prey on the residents using their sharp, pointed tongue. Aside from the Amalanhig of Aswang origins, some deceased humans could also turn into Amalanhig. These are people who died with unfinished business or were murdered and came back for revenge. The Amalanhig with unfinished business are relentless in pursuing the persons they have chosen to fulfill their goals. Avenging Amalanhig tickle their victims to death while sucking their life force. According to one legend a long time ago, before the Spaniards came to the Philippines, a chieftain ordered his priestess to create an army of warriors that couldn't be killed. These immortals were created by killing ordinary men and encrusting their bodies with dark soot, putting a strange pebble in their mouths and doing other rituals. After 3 days, they came back to life, but they were mindless, walking corpses that only died after accomplishing their task. They had me right up until I learned that they tickle their victims to death. Like, don't get me wrong, I still do not want to run into something like this, but I guess it's just hard to be scared of something that's gonna tickle me to death. The whole sucking my life force thing, yeah, that sounds like the worst. I don't want any part of that. But tickling? Really? We couldn't have come up with any other way of murdering people, guys? Number 3 on this list is the Pugot. I get serious Stranger Things Demogorgon vibes with this next demon creature. Myths and folklore says, in the Philippine mythology, the Pugot, which translates to the decapitated one, is a mythical fiend that's found in the Ilocos region. It can assume various shapes such as hogs, dogs, or even as humans. However, it usually appears as a black, gigantic, headless being. The creature usually resides in dark places or deserted houses. However, they especially like living in trees such as the duhot, santol, and tamarind. Aside from its shape-shifting abilities, the Pugot can also move at great speeds, feeding on snakes and insects that it finds among the trees. It feeds by thrusting food through its neck stump. Although terrifying, the Pugot is relatively harmless. However, the creature is fond of women's underwear and steals them when they're being dried on a clothesline. The Pugot is also found in the Ilfogo myth Tulod Nimputo, the self-beheaded, where he appears to the human hero. He was fed by the hero with chopped chicken meat that was mixed with blood. So I guess the good thing about this is that even though it has incredible power and speed and could be super dangerous, it chooses not to be. Well, unless you're a pair of ladies' underwear, in which case you might be in for it. Actually though, what is up with these Philippines demons? They're just kind of plain creepy, guys. Like, we had the tickle zombie and now we have the headless Demogorgon panty thief. I swear that this legend was just made up by like some super weird guy just as an excuse for why their neighbor's underwear kept going missing. Number 2 on this list is the Bati-Bat. This is a very dangerous demon and one that you do not want to piss off. Myths and folklore says in the Philippine mythology, the Bati-Bat or Bangungot is a vengeful demon found in Ilocano folklore. These demons were blamed as the cause of the fatal nocturnal disease called Bangungot. They usually come in contact with humans when the tree that they reside in is felled and made into a support post for a house. This causes them to migrate into holes found in the post. The Bati-Bat forbids humans from sleeping near its post. When a person does sleep near it, the Bati-Bat transforms to its true form and then attacks that person. It sits upon the chest of its victim until he suffocates. To ward off the Bati-Bat, one should bite one's thumb or wiggle one's toes. In this way, the person will awaken from the nightmare induced by the Bati-Bat. Once again, guys, we just have one of the scariest demons here with also the weirdest caveat attached to it. To ward this thing off, we need to wiggle our toes? Like, are you actually kidding me? I mean, at least this one doesn't steal panties, I guess, so, that's a thing. Also, this one, unlike some of the others, is actually very deadly. You could easily die from this thing if you're unable to wiggle your toes, which would actually be rather hard considering you're going to be asleep when this thing attacks, so it could be game over. I could totally see how if I was living in the Philippines, this thing would be one of my biggest fears. Like, I would exclusively be living in like a brick house or something. No wooden posts for me. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Ek-Ek. This one had to be number 1, and when you hear what it does and how it operates, you'll understand why. Wikipedia says in Philippine mythology, Ek-Ek are bird-like human creatures. They are winged humans who search for victims at night. They hunger for flesh and blood. They're usually described as flying creatures that look like the Menangle but are unable to divide or split their body in the way that one does. The Ek-Ek is also associated with the Walk-Walk because of some similar characteristics. The only difference between a Walk-Walk and Ek-Ek is that Ek-Ek has a bird-like bill whereas the Walk-Walk has none. The Ek-Ek can transform into a huge bird or bat at night to prowl in the form of. Similar to the Menangle, the Ek-Ek looks for sleeping pregnant women. Then it extends a very long proboscis into the womb and kills the fetus by draining its blood. It's said that while this is taking place, a ek-ek-ek sound is often heard. The Ek-Ek fools people into thinking that it's far off in the distance by producing a faint sound when it's actually really near. What the actual heck, guys? Most of these other demons are derpy dudes looking for underwear and tickles, but this thing? This is for real. Fetuses and blood draining and just no, I don't want it. How on earth does the Philippines grow in population with these things roaming around? I'd be too scared of having this thing come attack in the middle of the night. And tons of people feel the same way. Many rituals and services are done to try to ward off these creatures. I hope that some of these work because if they don't, consequences could be dire. Number 5 on this list is the Jinn, an ancient demon whose main method of attacking people was to trick them. History collection says the Jinn or Jinn of Arabic and Islamic mythology closely matched the original classic daemon or demon. Neither good nor evil, the Jinn were supernatural spirits born of smokeless fire long before the creation of humanity. The Jinn were spiritual beings, formless shapeshifters with magical powers powers who are ranked somewhere between humans and angels. They were not immortal and humans could kill them. However, a long lifespan compensated them for these disadvantages. In Persian mythology, the jinn had their own land, Jinnistan, whose capital was the City of Jewels. However, the jinn also haunted the human world, with favorite places of residence being the desert as well as rivers, wells, and even marketplaces. In this sense, they are very much like the Roman geniloci spirits of place, and it was customary to ask the local jinns permission before drawing water or even traveling into alien territory. If they appeared before humans, the jinn could appear as animals, monsters, or people. Whatever form they took, people could quickly identify them by their flaming eyes, which were also vertical rather than horizontal. This unusual attribute gave the jinn a sinister appearance that married well with some of their more suspect traits. For although the jinn could be helpers, they were also known to be malicious tricksters. In the worst scenarios, they would raise storms and cause disease, insanity, and death. Islam teaches that every human has an evil jinn whose sole purpose is to tempt its human opposite into evil. This reputation for malevolence is compounded by the fact the chief jinn, Iblis, is also known as Azazel, the Islamic devil. So yeah, I don't think summoning these guys is the best plan. You could literally release a massive disease on your whole city or something like that. Also, you need to be extremely mentally stable and strong to not get tricked by these evil things into doing something that you don't want to do. Speaking as a pretty gullible individual, this would really not be a good idea for me. Number 4 on this list is the Yaoguai. Unless you want your literal life force to get eaten, I wouldn't summon these demons. History Collection says the Yaoguai, or strange ghosts or strange devils, were mythical Chinese demons who, like the Asura, desired immortality and godhood. They included in their number animal spirits such as the fox spirits and fallen celestial beings. However, even though they acquired their powers through the practice of Taoism, the Yaoguai cared little for the balance between light and dark. They were firmly on the dark side and would stop at nothing to achieve their goals of deification. They believed they could accomplish this goal by consuming the life force of holy men. One tale of the Yaoguai appears in the 16th century Chinese novel Journey to the West. The story tells of the pursuit of the holy man Yao Xiang by Bei Guzhong, or White Bones Demon. However, unfortunately for Bei Guzhong, Yao Xiang was traveling in the company of Sun Wukong, or the Monkey King. The company first encountered the evil spirit disguised as a young girl searching for food. However, the Monkey King saw through the demon's disguise and drove it off with his staff. The Bei Guzhong tried again, firstly disguised as an old woman and finally as an old man. This final time, the Monkey King killed the demon, revealing its true form, a skeleton. Staffs, however, were not the only way to deal with these demons. As they lived in the underworld, the Chinese believed they were afraid of the light. So bonfires, fireworks, and torches were the perfect way to keep them at bay. So if you summon this thing, you may not even know that you have, because it could appear as something else entirely. So, unless you have the awareness and power of the Monkey King, which, no offense, I kinda doubt you do, this demon will probably end up getting the better of you. Number 3 on this list is Baelor. Baelor was said to be the chief of a demonic tribe in Celtic culture. He and this tribe threatened the Celtic people with death and destruction constantly. It was also a pretty actionable threat because Baelor was a literal giant. So he and his tribe could obliterate any human resistance if they so chose to do so. His overall strength and size wasn't his best weapon though. His best weapon was his eyeball. His eyeball was said to be poisonous. If Baelor glared at anyone with this evil poisonous eyeball, then they would die right there and then. That is a pretty ridiculous power and kind of OP if you ask me. Now the good thing about this is that legends say Baelor was defeated by his grandson. There was basically a lot of drama and his grandson fought him and took him down. He was never actually killed though. Legend says that he slunk away to the sea and he still resides there to this day. Summoning this demon is clearly just a horrible idea. Not only would you die the second that you summoned him because his eye but everyone around you would die pretty soon after that too. Just think about the damage a demon like this could cause in a big city. Like, we'd have no way of defending ourselves. Hopefully, my dude stays in the sea for good. Number 2 on this list is the Shadim. These were ancient demons associated with destruction and human sacrifice. The history collection says, to the Mesopotamians, the Lamassu or the Shedu were powerful human-headed, eagle-winged guardian spirits of the home or the state. The Mesopotamians erected statues of these powerful entities who had the body of either a bull or lion at the gates of palaces or cities. There, they were well placed to ward off invading armies and ensure peace to those within the city walls. In ordinary households, images of the Shedu were carved on clay tablets and buried under the threshold to ensure peace and happiness within. When the Israelites encountered the Shedu, however, they interpreted them in a very different way. Some of them took up the Mesopotamian custom of worshipping them, hence disapproving references in the Old Testament to how such people sacrificed unto devils, not to God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. Now, to the Jewish mainstream, the Shedu were false idols that possessed statues and masqueraded as gods. As such, they were evil, and so became the Shedim, demons associated with destruction, illness, and human sacrifice. So I guess if you were Mesopotamian, then you could summon these guys and it'd be all good, but if you're anyone else, probably not a good idea. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not trying to deal with a demon full of destruction and illness and just don't want to handle any of that. So no thank you, not trying to get sacrificed today. Number 1 on this list is Allah. So instead of reaching for a Nature Valley bar, this demon would grab the occasional child when she was hungry. Just great. The history collection says Allah is a female demon from Eastern Europe who, like many demons, seems to be derived from a belief in nature and weather spirits that could cause disaster and disease. Allah was believed to reside in clouds, lakes, and springs, or remote mountains or caves, or in large trees. When she visited humankind, she could take many forms. Allah could manifest as a vast black wind or a female dragon, a large-mouthed human, or a raven. She could even possess people. All or any of these relate to Allah's primary characteristic, all-consuming greed. If angered, the demon could manifest violent, thunderous hailstorms to destroy fields, vineyards, and orchards. However, it was equally likely she would satisfy her enormous appetite by devouring the produce herself. And when not over-consuming stolen grape or grain, Allah also liked to snack on her greed was so insatiable that she also periodically tried to eat the sun and the moon, therefore causing eclipses. So not only could you or your get eaten if you summon this thing, but you might also cause the entire world to end if this demon decides that she's hungry enough to chow down on the sun for good. Also, how big would this demon need to be if she was about to eat the entire sun? Like, that doesn't even make sense to me. Either way, never summon this demon because the human race could literally be at stake if you do.
Coming in at number 5, we have Dagon. Dagon is a deity of an amphibious humanoid race that resides in Earth's oceans. He is first introduced in Lovecraft's short story simply titled Dagon, and is mentioned numerous times throughout the Cthulhu mythos universe. Also known as Father Dagon, as he is considered one of the Great Old Ones. The story follows a tortured, lost-at-sea addict who is an escaped prisoner of war from the Germans in the Pacific. He escapes on a lifeboat and drifts aimlessly until he eventually finds himself stranded on a slimy purgatory black island, which is putrid with carcasses of decaying fish, nasty stinky mud, and slimy mold. His theory was that this area was formerly a portion of the ocean floor that had risen to the surface by volcanic activity and tsunami-like waves. Days of walking, he reaches the edge of the canyon, a gigantic white stone, a smooth monolith that's covered in unfamiliar hieroglyphs consisting of fishes, eels, octopuses, crustaceans, whales, crude sculptures of men with webbed hands and webbed feet, flabby lips, glassy bulging eyes. Sounds like aliens to me. Dagon then appears from the water, and the mariner departs quickly in fear, paddling away from the island before being rescued by a US Navy ship. Lovecraft seems to be referring to the ancient Sumerian god named Dagon, who is the fertility god of grain and fish in the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god. He resembles the carving and legend like the Sumerian deity, depicted as being part fish, part man, seen wearing a fish on his head. That's pretty creepy. Number 4. Night Gaunts. The concept of night gaunts first came to Lovecraft as a young boy in a series of recurring nightmares, which they would whirl him through space at a sickening rate of speed. In his dreams, of course. Lovecraft credited the illustrations based off of inspirations from Gustave Doré, who drew everything from angels to demons in the Bible. Gothic, winged, and demonic, alright. Shocking and uncouth. Jet black with smooth, oily whale-like skin. Long, sharp horns that curved inward towards each other. Giant, silent bat wings flap, chewed claws, and a barbed, spiny tail. And worst of all, these creatures never spoke or laughed or smiled, and this is because there was only smooth skin where the face should be. It's terrifying. These faceless night gaunts have a vaguely human shape as well. Their skin is slick and rubbery. They can fly using a set of membranous wings and poke and stab with their tail, tickling and torturing their victims. Tickling? Quote, "Out of the crypt they crawl, I cannot tell, but every night I see the rubbery things, black, horned and slender, with membranous wings. They come in legions on the north winds, swell, with obscene clutch that titillates and stings, snatching me off monstrous voyages to grey worlds hidden deep within my nightmares well." Okay. Poetic. Yeah, that sounds terrifying, dude. This guy was definitely suffering from either night terrors or alien abductions. I don't know, what do you think? Number 3. Ron-Tagoth. From Lovecraft's The Horror in the Museum. Ron-Tagoth is the great old one of hibernation, immortality, and ruin. Ancient texts agree that when Ron-Tagoth awakens, the end of times shall be upon us. 3 million years ago, during the Pliocene epoch, it inhabited an era of Alaska before going into a hibernation-like trance. He was the last god to sleep and probably meant to be the first to wake. The god is shaped like an enormous insect, kind of like an aquatic anthropod with a barrel-shaped trunk with 6 appendages all ending in claw-like pincers. Subtle. He has a circular head covered with hair-like filaments or feelers, tentacle probes, and 3 small eyes. He weighs 20,000 pounds at 10 feet with legs more than 20 feet long. The story follows the relationship of Stephen Jones and George Rogers, the owner of a wax museum specializing in the grotesque and a weary guest. Jones mocks Rogers, then comes to suspect that he is demented and obsessed with these stories of rites and sacrifices to this nameless ancient god. Jones stays the night at the museum where he's attacked by the host and then sacrificed to Ron-Tagoth, resulting in more statues within the museum. Terrifying. Ron-Tagoth influences human minds and compels them to perform increasingly violent sacrifices in front of him. Sometimes humans have been known to temporarily awake Ron-Tagoth from hibernation with certain chance, but always end up being devoured by the beast. Hey, we better pray that this LiDAR technology really doesn't get going. They eventually scan Antarctica and the Arctic under all that ice and snow? Who knows what we're gonna find sleeping down there. Number 2. Yig. The story of Yig begins long before this story was written. Yig, the father of serpents, is a semi-anthropomorphic great old one, that's a mouthful, who was worshipped as a god in Central America and the southern United States. From Guatemala to Oklahoma, Yig is seen as the ancestor of the almighty Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan of the Aztecs in central Mexico. And now, the story. In 1889, upon arriving in Oklahoma, a couple learn about a local legend surrounding a snake god called Yig, which takes vengeance on anyone who kills a serpent by either killing them or turning them into a half-snake monster in replace of the deceased. Eye for an eye. The husband of the researchers has an intense fear of snakes, and his wife, knowing this, kills a nest of rattlesnakes at one of their campsites. It's a great way to summon this guy. Yig is human size, hairless, and around the shoulders is speckled and brownish with a snake skin. His head is flat like an amphibian with piercing cold black eyes. Unlike most of the great old ones, Yig is seen as rarely malicious, and although he enters a feeding frenzy from August to October, the Pawnee, Wichita, and Caddo of Oklahoma drum constantly during those months to drive him away. The husband is horrified by the thought that Yig is going to take vengeance and insists on practicing the rituals from the First Nations people to keep Yig away. During the middle of the night, in fear, the woman kills her own husband in the dark, paranoid, thinking he's the monster. She's then taken to an asylum and dies there. But not before giving birth to 4 half-serpent hybrid creatures. Spooky! I was gonna say, this guy doesn't seem that bad. He's only malicious if you threaten or hurt his serpents. Kinda resembles Charizard a little bit. I mean, the Medusa children, very horrifying, but other than that, he's not a bad guy. And coming in at the number 1 spot, Cathyla. This number 1 spot goes to who I think is the most terrifying. Not only is she younger and stronger than the king of all kings of monsters, she's known as the Kraken, or the Secret One. She is the spawn offspring of Cthulhu and Idia. She's kinda like the biggest deal. She's the daughter of Cthulhu and is essential to his great plan for the entire universe, as should he somehow die, Cathyla will give birth to him once again while assuming her father's role as the Great One. As such, she is guarded by the Deep Ones below the ocean in what might be assumed to be the ancient city of Relay. She was first born from the star Zoth, but landed in Earth's oceans atop her father when they crashed here. Also called the Secret One because the cult tried to hide all information about the goddess, most famously by defacing the columns of Geth, as her legend was recorded steadily in Greek myths such as Skylla. Yeah, that's her. Her father, Cthulhu, is a cosmic entity, first introduced in Lovecraft's short story in 1928. The Lovecraft mythos gives birth to this modern abysmal horror. Cathyla is the youngest of Cthulhu and his partner Idia, and therefore the most frightening. Cathyla is destined to give birth to the next great Cthulhu again, after he is destroyed in the near prophesized future. Project X was a secret and failed attempt to kill Cathyla with a subterranean atomic missile, but it was no match for this gigantic red-bodied, six-eyed octopus with wings. Yeah, she's able to alter her body proportions at will, such as enlarging her wings to fly or even swim. She has 8 arms like any octopus, so not only is she impenetrable from any of Earth's deterrents, she has the ability to camouflage anywhere. See what I mean? She's literally the scariest.
Number 5 on this list is the Shadow Doll. Whatever demon took up residence in this evil-looking doll was not one that the Warrens were too fond of. Scare Street says, the Warrens' files do not state why this horrible doll was created in the first place. However, they do state that it was used in satanic rituals and it was created by black magic using human and animal bones. It's rumored that if a picture were to be taken of the doll, it would project itself into the dreams of the person who dared to look at it in the eye. However, it is not only a simple dream. The dream would be so intensely nightmarish that the victims would either suffer from a heart attack or forever be frightened of sleep because of the horrifying looking doll. The files even state that there were a few deaths caused by it. The Shadow Doll was later found in an antique shop and oddly enough, a couple purchased it. After the purchase, the couple began to encounter the eeriest of nightmares. They later found out that they were experiencing the same nightmares of the cursed doll and that the husband had scratches all over his back and neck, which could only be traced back to the Shadow Doll. Clearly, this doll and its capabilities was something that the Warrens were very concerned about. It's one thing to be attacked when you're awake and conscious. Let's face it, this happened to the Warrens all the time, and they were constantly having to deal with scary demons coming after them. Obviously, this was never a great time, but it was something that they could handle. Getting attacked while you're asleep, though, that's a completely different animal. You are now being haunted in a world where things won't make any sense. A world where this Shadow Doll can manipulate the physics and do things that they wouldn't be able to do outside of our heads. It also meant for the Warrens that they wouldn't have one another. They were a team and tackled every single one of their demonic foes as a unit. Getting attacked while you were asleep in your brain meant that the other person, even though they would most likely be lying right next to you, they'd have no idea that you're getting attacked and wouldn't be able to do anything to save you. All of this is why the Warrens had to take this doll and bring it to their museum. This was of course after they performed various ceremonies on it to try and extract the demonic presence. Number 4 on this list is the Amityville Horror House. This is the case, the demon, the haunting, that launched the Warrens to stardom. But don't think that it didn't come at a cost. Pop Sugar says, the demonologists became a household name for the supernatural after their involvement in the infamous Amityville house. The scary elements of this story really began in 1974, when 23-year-old Ronald Defoe Jr., one of the children of the Defoe family, murdered his 2 parents and 4 siblings in their sleep. The house was empty for a year, but George and Kathy Lutz eventually bought the house for a very cheap price of $80,000. The couple and the children had only stayed for 28 days after seeing slime ooze from a wall and a red-eyed pig creature among other disturbances. In addition to these occurrences, George saw his wife levitating and said that he woke up at 3:15 every day, the time when Defoe killed his family. The Warrens came in and determined that there were psychic troubles even before the notorious murders. A demon was in this place causing problems. The Warrens knew it, and they had to deal with it. Now, I don't think that the demon can be blamed for everything that went on here. At the end of the day, murder is murder, and I don't want to take anything away from that. But after the fact, this place was susceptible to being haunted, and a demon definitely came in here and haunted it pretty well. It's their most famous case for a reason. Number 3 on this list is the Enfield Poltergeist. The Enfield Poltergeist was a possessive demon who specifically targeted 2 young girls. MovieWeb says, this well-known case formed the subject matter for The Conjuring 2. This case saw the Warrens flying overseas to London, England in order to investigate alleged poltergeist activity in the North London borough of Enfield. Peggy Hodgson, a single parent, had initially called the police after 2 of her 4 children had reported knocking sounds on the walls. Peggy herself claimed to have witnessed furniture moving around with no explanation. This was apparently also corroborated by a police officer visiting the house. Ed and Lorraine Warren were convinced that the events were of supernatural origin and appeared to be predominantly focused around 2 of Peggy Hodgson's teenage daughters, with the girls seeming at times to apparently levitate off the ground. So like I said, a demon who really enjoyed possessing people. These are some of the most dangerous types of demons because you simply don't know who or what to believe anymore. If you're living in a house that's haunted, then how do you know that your dad, for instance, is who he claims he is? How do I know who to trust? Also, I am just as susceptible to being taken over by this creature, and I can't imagine that that's a great time. It's easy to see why Ed and Lorraine Warren were scared by this demon. Number 2 on this list is the Annabelle doll. One of the most famous demons that the Warrens ever encountered, Annabelle certainly gave the pair many sleepless nights. The story behind Annabelle starts with a girl named Deirdre, who got the doll as a gift from her mother. It was a nice gift at first, but it wasn't long after she had it that she started noticing some weird occurrences. She would leave the doll in one spot, and then when she came home later that day, sure enough, the doll had moved somewhere else. Pretty creepy. This was creepy to begin with, but it gets a lot worse. One day she came home and noticed that the doll was covered in blood. It was at this point where she decided to seek a professional opinion. She sought the help of a medium to get advice. Scare Street says the medium told her about a little girl named Annabelle Higgins, who was once a happy child playing in the fields until her life mysteriously ended. After her death, she roamed the buildings that were built on this field. One night, her boyfriend, Cal, woke up to see Annabelle shocking him. It was awfully strong. Another night, Annabelle had attacked him and left him with 7 bloody scratches on his chest. They decided to contact their local priest, and that was how the Warrens heard their ominous story. The Warrens delivered the victims a shocking truth, saying that there was no Annabelle and it was a mere trick from a demonic spirit which was allowed to manifest the doll after their agreement. The Warrens told them that the spirit was given permission to inflict harm on them, and that if they had remained silent, the spirit would have killed them all within a week or 2. They held an exorcism and took the doll with them. Whilst driving though, Ed lost control over the car for a few times, and the priest who had made fun of the doll was killed in a dreadful accident. Disturbed by the doll, the Warrens decided to keep it in a sealed box. This thing almost took Ed Warren off the road and could have ended the Warrens' lives prematurely. Safe to say that they feared this demon a decent amount, I think. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Conjuring House. The famous Ed and Lorraine movie was based on fact, folks, one of the scariest run-ins the pair had with a demon. MovieWeb says the house in question, located in Harrisville, Rhode Island, is said to be haunted by the ghost of a woman alleged to be a witch. The commonly accepted story states that the woman killed her son and herself in order to haunt any future occupants of the house. The Warrens' investigation took place in 1974 when they made repeated visits to the property in order to investigate reports of a malevolent malevolent entity capable of lifting beds, whilst also filling the air with the reek of rotting flesh. This particular was of course the basis of the first film in the series, The Conjuring. While Ed Warren had already passed away during the production of the movie, Lorraine Warren served as a consultant on the project. Of that long ago investigation, she admitted the things that went on there were just so incredibly frightening, it still affects me to talk about it today. Literally, Lorraine, when she was alive, was still affected by the things that went on in this house. It's no wonder that Hollywood saw this as a prime opportunity to make a movie and rake in the money. The original story was just so scary to begin with. Number 5 on this list is La Llorona. Most people around the New Mexico area are familiar with La Llorona. She is usually described as a tall, slim woman with long dark hair, dressed in white and often crying. All That's Interesting says the most popular version of the tale features a stunning young peasant woman named Maria who married a wealthy man. The couple lived happily for a time and had 2 children together before Maria's husband lost interest in her. One day, while walking by the river with her 2 children, Maria caught sight of her husband riding by in his carriage, accompanied by a pretty young woman. In a fit of rage, Maria flung her 2 children into the river and drowned them both. When her anger subsided and she realized what she had done, she succumbed to such profound grief that she spent the rest of her days wailing by the river in search of her children. By some traditions, the ghost of La Llorona is feared. She is said to be vengeful and seize others' children to drown in place of her own. By other traditions, she is a warning and those who hear her wails will soon face death themselves. Sometimes she's seen as a disciplinary figure and appears to children who are unkind to their parents. Apparently, children growing up in this area are taught never to walk alone without their parents near small bodies of water. That swamp water doesn't look super intimidating, but La Llorona could very easily be lurking underneath, waiting to come snatch you up. It's kind of interesting why she has chosen to do this in the afterlife though. Why? One would think that after she killed her own kids, she would feel regret and not want that to happen to anybody else, but instead, she's doing the opposite. Maybe because she can't be a happy mother or parent anymore, she feels like no one should be allowed to be a happy parent or mother and wants to steal the children away because of that. Whatever her true motivations are, all you need to know is that she is evil and sick, and having your kids walk beside any body of water without direct supervision, it's not a good idea. Number 4 on this list is Teratorns. Teratorns are like the birds that you would envision to be living in hell. Whenever any cartoon or movie shows hell and there's a bird in it, that bird is very similar to what a Teratorn would look like. La Cruces says, on July 19, 2007, La Cruces resident Dave Zander, who had lived near the Donza Ana Mountains for more than 30 years, reported something that has haunted him ever since. 2 enormous bird-like creatures with wingspans at least 20 feet wide gliding along the Organ Mountains. There is nothing like them on modern record, though sightings throughout New Mexico have been reported since the late 1800s. Cryptozoologist and author Ken Gerhard said he believes the creatures sighted by Dave were surviving prehistoric raptor-like creatures called Teratorns. These flying monsters are believed to have occupied the area as recently as 6,000 years ago. Well-preserved remains have been discovered in caves and isolated ravines, lending credence to the belief, though many scientists are skeptical that these creatures still exist. I too am skeptical that these creatures still exist. I mean, how is it possible that we've gone so long without seeing them in our world if they're that big? Maybe it's because they are living in hell. Like I said, these birds could totally be servants of the devil in my opinion. Could I believe that they never really went extinct, they just got transported to hell instead? Sure I could, that could totally make sense. Maybe these monstrous birds have been there all along and these few sightings have been when they were sent into our world to accomplish some type of devilish mission. It's just a guess, but it might explain what's been going on. Number 3 on this list is Yurika Mesa. So this isn't actually a singular demon, or well, a demon at all. It's actually a place. Philmont says, Eureka Mesa is a large mesa on the property of Philmont Scout Ranch. The mesa has a long history of mythical and supernatural associations dating to the local indigenous tribes, some of whom believed it to contain the gateway to the underworld. There exist a variety of other more recent ghost legends, some from the land's Mexican occupants, others from those in the cattle trade who used it as a winter home for their livestock, and still others from the early days of the area's use as a Boy Scout ranch. These involve, among other themes, unexplained blue lights, wandering murderous monks, amorphous horsemen dressed in black, and a lost scout. The mesa has a number of other more worldly peculiarities to which some of its mystique may be attributed. These include the presence of a large quantity of lodestone which serves to disorient the compass of anyone who ventures too close to it, the mesa's vastness and complete flatness making it easy to become lost, and the shape of a skull which adorns its topmost area, which is visible on a topographic map. It also has the highest incidence of lightning strikes of any place in the state, making it highly dangerous to be atop it during a storm. People who have lived in this area for a long time believe that there is an entrance to the demon world here, and based on everything that goes down there, I might believe them. There isn't just one demon who wanders around here, but there are multiple. I recommend booking your camping excursion somewhere else, folks. Number 2 on this list is skinwalkers. Definitely one of the more dangerous demons to encounter in New Mexico. Cryptids fandom says, in many Native American legends, a skinwalker is a person with the supernatural ability to turn into any creature they desire. To be able to transform, legends sometimes require that the skinwalker wears a pelt of the animal. In most cases, this pelt is not used in modern times because it's an obvious sign of them being skinwalkers. It's a common theme found throughout cultures all over the world and is referred to as shape-shifting by anthropologists. These creatures are cited interestingly a lot nowadays. Many Native Americans dislike the fact that skinwalkers appear in modern media because of the superstition that mentioning them might cause them to hunt the mentioning person down. This is the same reason why they don't like talking about them with non-natives. We have done tons of videos on skinwalkers before. Stories of people being taken or barely escaping with their lives from these creatures. Stories where people will be driving down the highway and these beasts are keeping up with their car that's going over 100 kilometers per hour. These are dangerous creatures and they should not be trifled with. Be very careful if you're in New Mexico because that is one of their favorite hunting grounds. And number 1 on this list is La Mala Hora. This is a demon that you need to avoid at all costs. It's said to be a wicked and cruel demon spirit who will appear to people on long country roads late at night. Around the communities that it regularly stalks, this thing is more feared than the devil. At first, you won't even know what you're looking at. A dark lump or cloud will appear. Something completely unnatural and that defies the laws of physics as we know them. This lump or cloud will rapidly shift and change its shape and size. Now, apparently, if you look at this process for too long, then you will assuredly go insane. Your entire brain will slowly but surely turn to mush and you will be left as a shell of your former self. And as if that isn't bad enough, there's actually a lot more. The going insane thing is just one of this crazy demon's abilities. It's also very capable of hypnotizing and paralyzing you. Usually it does this right before it strikes. Once you're paralyzed, it will rush you as fast as possible, and in a blink you will be enveloped by this smoky blackness. Then, seconds later, you'll be dead, and the cloud will move on as if nothing happened. This is one of the outcomes that can happen with La Mala Hora. The other outcome involves her showing up as a human. Occasionally, this demon will appear in the form of a woman. A woman wearing all black clothing, looking like she is in desperate need of a bath. If this is what you see late at night on the road, then congratulations. It's your lucky day. You won't be killed tonight. However, don't celebrate too soon because it means that you, or someone you deeply love, they're gonna be dying very shortly. So even though you don't die right there and right then, death is on the horizon. However you spin it, this demon really is the worst. If I was you, then if it's past 10 o'clock at night in New Mexico, do not be going out on any dark roads. Number 5 on this list is the Basilisk. The Basilisk is a beast in Italian folklore that is said to annoy the living hell out of the villagers it's nearby. Bestiarium says, in the Val Carmonica, a valley in the central Italian Alps region, there is a local celebration which is connected to a legend about a mythical monster. This monster is the Basilisk, a creature with a huge head and large mouth, adorned with 2 tiny horns and 2 brightly glowing eyes. According to the local legend, the terrible Basilisk lived in the woods in Andrista, a small village. Actually, terrible is an overstatement. It did little harm, but it did constantly annoy the locals. As punishment, the beast was captured as the locals used a beautiful girl as bait to trap and capture the lusty beast. It was fought by a hunchbacked folk hero. So they hold a festival for the demon thing every year. There's a parade and they get a costume for it made from goat skin. The whole village participates in it and it's a whole big affair that's going on. However, there are a few select elders who don't participate. Whilst everyone is out and about having fun, drinking, and making merry, this select group of elders is inside being very careful with what they do. Apparently, this group was around when this beast first came to being. They saw it firsthand, and they don't agree with the way that people are treating it. In their opinion, the legend has been thoroughly exaggerated, and this creature isn't as kind as everyone wants to believe. They are under the impression that constantly doing this year in and year out is going to anger the creature, and one year it will finally unleash its wrath upon the village. Now, no one knows if this is true or not, or if it's just a bunch of people being really paranoid. However, I would tend to believe the people who claim to have seen this thing firsthand, rather than those who are just looking for an excuse to get drunk. Number 4 on this list is Stryzga. This is a demon very similar to a vampire that can be found in parts of Italy. Wikipedia says a Stryzga is a usually female demon somewhat similar to vampires in Slavic and especially Polish folklore. People who were born with 2 hearts and 2 souls and 2 sets of teeth, the second one barely visible, were believed to be Stryzgi. Somnambulics, or people without armpit hair, could also be seen as one. Furthermore, a newborn child with already developed teeth was also believed to be one. When a person was identified as a Stryzga, they were chased away from human dwelling places. During epidemics, people were getting buried alive, and those who managed to get out of their graves, often weak, ill, and with mutilated hands, were said to be Stryzgi by others. It is said that Stryzgi usually died at a young age, but according to belief, only one of their 2 souls would pass to the afterlife. The other soul was believed to cause the deceased Stryzga to come back to life and prey upon living beings. These undead creatures were believed to fly at night in a form of an owl and attack nighttime travelers and people who had wandered off into the woods at night, sucking out their blood and eating their insides. Stryzga were also believed to be satisfied with animal blood for a short period of time. Whatever version of the Stryzga is proven to be correct, it really isn't good either way. They're either personally coming to kill and suck your blood, or they're indicating that we're about to die. The way that you protect yourself is pretty similar to vampires. Burning the body of one of these creatures or putting a stake through it are proven methods of getting rid of them. Also, for some reason, slapping it across the face with your left hand is said to help. Not sure if I want to be the one trying that method though. Number 3 on this list is dragons. Now, I know that dragons aren't technically demons, but they are pretty bloody terrifying in my opinion, and for that reason I think they deserve some love on this list. Italy has quite the history with dragons and has had some pretty big ones in the past. Dragon's Wish says, one of the most famous dragons of Italian folklore is Tyrus, a wyvern that besieged Terni in the Middle Ages. One day, a young and brave knight of the noble house of Cittadini, tired of witnessing the death of his fellow citizens and depopulation of Terni, faced the dragon and killed him. The town, from that day onwards, adopted the dragon in its coat of arms and accompanied by a Latin inscription, Tyrus e annis dederent signa terraminis, that stands under the banner of the town of Terni, honoring this legend. This is just the most famous legend of a dragon in Italy, but it doesn't mean that it's the only one. There have been other reports of dragons in Italy as well, and some of them have been very scary. At the end of the day, a dragon, in my opinion, is just as bad, if not worse, than a demon. If I had to go one-on-one versus a dragon or a demon, I might try my luck with the demon, guys, because there's no way I'm going to be able to survive the dragon. Number 2 on this list is the Lariosoro. This creature is an evil serpent living in one of Italy's big bodies of water, and it's said to be a servant of the devil. Yaoguai writes, "Meet Lariosoro, Italy's own Loch Ness monster." According to Italian folklore, Lariosoro lives in Lake Como, which lies 30 miles to the north of Milan and is one of the deepest European lakes. In November 1946, 2 hunters claimed that they saw a huge animal resembling a reptile swimming in the lake. It had red scales and was about 12 meters in length. Upon firing their rifles, Italy's Nessie disappeared into the center of the lake with a hissing sound. The creature was named after Lariosauros balsami, a prehistoric reptile whose fossilized remains were discovered in the lake in 1830. More sightings followed at the lake. In 1954, a creature with a round muzzle and webbed paws was spotted by a father and his son. Then, in August 1957, another monster was allegedly seen by natives. A month later, in the same year, an animal was spotted in the lake, this time whose head resembled that of a crocodile. The last sighting was in 2003, and it looked more like a giant eel. It's got tons of different forms, and no one knows exactly what form it will show up as next. One thing is clear though, it's guarding whatever is at the bottom of this lake. Some people think that the devil has some type of gate there, or that he's working on creating a gate. Until the gate is fully functional and ready to bring creatures from hell to our world, the devil has employed the capabilities of this underwater beast to guard it. This is all just a theory, but no one knows for sure, so we should probably do some digging pretty soon, folks, and figure out what's going on underneath the water. And number 1 on this list is the Ferocious Beast. I wish I had a more descriptive name for you guys, but that is literally what it has been called. The Ferocious Beast. This is a demon creature that resembled a wolf and was around several hundred years ago. An enormous animal similar to a wolf, it ate pets and children and terrorized Milan during the 1790s, and the Milanese organized a hunt against it. After months, they killed the Ferocious Beast and displayed its body at the university at Pavia, but it's no longer there and has been missing for decades. Informal sources claim it was stolen, destroyed during World War II, or removed specifically by German actions during that war. So there are a lot of rumors that have circulated about what actually happened to this beast, but something that wasn't brought up there was that it still might be alive. Yes, it was killed back in the day, but now with this pelt mysteriously vanishing, people are thinking that this thing could have come back to life. Now this would have been with the help of the devil himself. The legend says that the devil realized how deadly this beast was to us humans. He saw some serious potential here and didn't want to let it go to waste. So he finally decided to come back and claim the pelt and then bring this thing back to life, but as a servant of the devil. Now its main goal is to serve as a demonic hellhound and claim as many bodies as it can before it's killed once again. Although killing it a second time is going to be a lot harder, considering now it has demonic abilities to go along with it.
And coming in number 5, the Pasetto family possession. During the year of 1981, home in Lee, Massachusetts, was riddled by paranormal activity that surged through every room in this house. Louis and Dale Pasetto, an average hardworking American couple, along with their 2 children, endured occurrences that nearly destroyed them, literally. The devout Catholics lived peacefully in the house that had been their family home for decades. It wasn't until 2 years after moving in that the demonic signs started showing. On March 19th, Mrs. Pasetto began receiving nightly visits from a white orb that took the shape of a non-threatening young boy who spoke in a very soft voice. Doesn't sound that bad. While the apparition was gentle, the Pasettos felt that they should rid their home of such supernatural entity, and a priest eventually came in to perform a ritual. Mr. and Mrs. Pasetto believed their troubles were over after this, but unfortunately this only caused more demonic occurrences to start. In place of the sweet ghost boy grew an unearthly creature hunched over and dressed in a black robe. Scary. Mrs. Pasetto claimed that the specter would say vulgar and nasty things, growling, saying it called itself the Minister of God. It wasn't just the verbal attacks that were happening, however, no. During the sleepless nights, Mrs. Pasetto claimed that she suffered claw marks both on her back, stomach, breasts, and face after being dragged around the bedroom. Mr. Pasetto attests to this and said that he watched in horror as the bed levitated above him, Mrs. Pasetto on it. Terrifying, dude. Refrigerators were ripped from walls, metal bookcases turned over to the floor, and in one case, a crucifix was even yanked from the hand of their 14-year-old son. The Pasettos reached out to medical professionals for help, but they rejected their experiences, calling them exaggerated. It wasn't until Mr. and Mrs. Pasetto turned to professionals Ed and Lorraine Warren, self-proclaimed demonologists, that were called to help. The Ghostbusters themselves. As the founders of the New England Society for Psychic Research in the 50s, Mr. and Mrs. Warren devoted their life to the supernatural. When the Warrens visited the Pasettos, they instantly detected signs of paranormal activity pulsing from the home. In a description eerily similar to the film Poltergeist, which came out the following summer in '82, Mrs. Warren says that she saw many small ghost lights move around the room until they combined to create a towering, shadowy figure. A priest was brought in to perform the ritual. The basement apparently then filled with smoke during the exorcism, and when the ritual was complete, the Warrens deemed the house clear of evil. The Pasetto family moved back in and reported no further activity since. And in 2004, the family moved out and on and left this once haunted house for someone else to deal with. I understand. Number 4, Elizabeth Knapp. The possession of Elizabeth Knapp, October 30th, 1671 to January 12th, 1672, is a unique and weird one in the aspect that it was approached from a more scientific aspect than religious, and being of that time, somewhat of a new methodology. Knapp's father was the servant at a household of Samuel Willard, a prominent reverend in the Church of Groton. When Elizabeth Knapp, a member of his own household, began to show signs of demonic possession, Willard took a carefully and yet scientific approach to the situation, which was rare for the 17th century Puritan. After these scary events took place, they could provide no explanation for her episodic fits. He declared that it was a case of possession. Throughout the entire process, he notes in his journal, Knapp seemed to have most violent fits when Willard was present beside her. Willard states that Knapp at first began to complain of pains in her body. She would grab certain parts of her body such as her legs or breasts and would scream out, talking about feelings of strangulation. She would even sometimes laugh to the point of hysterical fits, weeping or screaming out. Hallucinations followed shortly after the outbursts, and on many occasions she claimed to see 2 people constantly walking around her bed. Strange claims like this constantly seeing men floating above her bed as well. This happened particularly at night, including some convulsings on the ground. Willard then documented on the night of November 2nd, 1671, Knapp made a confession of meeting up with the devil. Uh-oh. The old sign at the crossroads deal, huh? She stated that for 3 years the devil had been meeting her, promising her money, youth, and the ability to see the world. She then claimed that he had presented her with a book of blood covenant, which was signed by other women as well. And on the night of November 28th, in which she had a fit lasting for 48 hours straight, she was in a coma state until she made the pact with the devil himself. Witnesses document strange, deep voices and animal sounds coming from her. After Willard stopped entries to his journal, things get a little messy. It has been a historical mystery what happened to Knapp, as we are still unsure to this day exactly what remained of her. Was she tried and hanged for witchcraft, or simply disappeared on the promise of seeing the world? You tell me. Number 3, like father, like son. Duxbury, Massachusetts. 2021, huh? A 19-year-old man is charged in the death of his father. Apparently the boy told police that he was baptizing his father at a Massachusetts pond to exorcise out his demons. Okay, modern times call for modern solutions, I guess. And this one, a modern weird one. Jack Callahan, the 19-year-old kid, choked back tears in court as he listened to prosecutors describe the moment divers pulled the bloated body of his father, 57-year-old Scott Callahan, from a Massachusetts pond. lifeless. The young man told investigators that he and his father went to the pond around midnight after he picked up his father from a Boston bar. He says that his mother did not want the intoxicated ex-husband of the family home that night, as he had been acting somewhat strange lately. After conversations from the son and father, Jack, feeling helpless and confused about his situation, tried to take matters into his own hands. He is now facing a murder charge in relation to his father's death and is still under investigation. Both the prosecution and defense say Scott Callahan had a long history of substance abuse and suffered from the aftermath of traumatic brain injuries, and that from overuse of medicinal drugs might have taken the man's mind. According to Jack at the pond, his father became combative with him, punched him repeatedly in the face, claiming that he had not been in control of his own body, and was assured that his father wasn't really aware of what he was doing in the moment. The 19-year-old then decided to baptize his father in an attempt to exorcise the demon, which resulted in drowning him. That's a hard one to swallow. It's also got some biblical feel to it, you know? Father, son, bonding over paranoia. Scott Callahan was found in the water about 50 feet away from the shore in the pond, short time after the baptism and attempted exorcism happened. He was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. There is an open investigation on this one still, and the young man is sticking to his story. What do you think? Possession? Number 2, Warren, Massachusetts. This New England tragedy was apparently what laid out the structure of the Conjuring movies. I'm terrified just reading that, and I guess we're gonna find out why. 11-year-old David Glatzel was only 10 when he reported beginning having hallucinations and delusions. From around 79 to 82, the boy's suffering worsened, causing severe trauma in the family. According to his family, efforts by Catholic priests and others to relieve the boy of what they said were multiple demonic possessions. Multiple. Things started getting interesting, however, surrounding the family after an aggressive, bloody confrontation in 1981. Arn Johnson, boyfriend of David's older sister, Deborah, stabbed his landlord to death multiple times in Brookfield. New England paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren later claimed that Johnson had actually challenged the demon inside David's body to leave the young boy and enter him instead. This guy's a hero, man. Unfortunately, a deadly one at that. That argument was the basis of the devil made me do it defense at Johnson's trial in Danbury with the Superior Court. The Warrens claimed that the man showed all signs of possession, including growling, speaking in strange voices, violent acts, and talkings of the beast. This is a wild case and sparked huge controversy in court after murder charges were forever changed with the claim that the devil made me do it would be lawfully excused. He was released from prison in 1985. And coming in at number 1, the Dover Demon. Probably the most famous of all these cases. 17-year-old William Bartlett claimed that while driving on April 21st, 1977, he saw a large-eyed creature with huge sharp fingers and glowing eyes on top of a broken stone wall on Farm Street in Dover, Massachusetts. 15-year-old John Baxter reported seeing a similar creature on Miller Hill Road the same evening. Another 15-year-old, Abby Brabham, claimed to have seen the creature the following night on Springdale Avenue. 3 in one night, huh? The teenagers all drew sketches of the alleged creature. Bartlett wrote on his sketch, "I, Bill Bartlett, swear on a stack of Bibles that I saw this creature." And according to the Boston Globe, some suggest that the creature may have just been a large foal or moose calf. Nah, definitely not. With wings and fingers like that, I don't think so. Police told the Associated Press that creatures reported by the teenagers were probably nothing more than a school vacation hoax. I don't know. It's been about 45 years since the sightings of the creature that came to be known as the Dover Demon, and still remains one of Massachusetts' truly great mysteries and one of the world's great cryptid cases.